Hello and welcome to the Zeppoverse. Greetings, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, and good day to you all, regardless from what corner of the universe you join us for this experimental, hyper-collaborative, literary world-building and conceptual development live stream extravaganza. Dear friends, as we begin to prepare to start and initiate this live stream show, I humbly invite you to join me in the middle of this darkness. Sit back, relax, close your eyes, adjust the volume, and despite its awkward cadence, please allow our automated, pseudo-animatronic, imaginary robot friend read the opening credits script with warnings and provisos and promotional items included for your infotainment, followed immediately by the all-important central core passage that exists as the permanently presented previously on the Zeppoverse, quoted from the book series. Join us now as we invite... we are not prepared. A poor robot reader friend is a couple of steps not ready. Rough and tumble, real, raw, and ridiculously unscripted, except for the parts that obviously are. Welcome to the Almost Daily. And now, for the opening intro.
Start off for automated introduction script V419. Activating all systems connecting to platform name redacted and platform name redacted. Preparing to launch episode entitled P1 Yin Yang Zeppoverse World Building Project Yin Yang Creative Writing Chats with Yin Yang. Almost. Daily Live Yin Yang Saturday the 20th of December 2025 Yin Yang. Testing visual chat visual display parameters. Bleed purple 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 visual chat visual display parameters. Testing complete. Error code rest settings adjustment needed correction adjusted ray testing. Please STNAD by resetting settings offline. Click that. Pre-show default announcements. I am a robot fictional character with a redacted message for the humanity species from a book series you have not read yet, because I have only just now started writing it for you, right before your very eyes. Live on stream. Attention viewers on both live platforms. Warnings. Ampersand. Disclaimers items here. Please be advised. Viewers must be 18 or older in order to join chat in either platform name redacted or platform name redacted. Give platform incentive gifts or make donations according to platform terms of service and end user license agreements. Please also remember, we are here trying to create a safe viewing experience, and we invite you to participate by also following the platform community guidelines. Standards violators, bots, sales scripts, scams, trolls and stream sniping haters will be called out, openly ridiculed and banned. Please gather around and settle for the show. Click that. This episode, insert title here, is about to begin Yin Yang Zeppoverse World Building Project Yin Yang Chat with Yin Yang Creative Writing Yin Yang Climax Yin Yang. Almost. Daily Live Yin Yang. Thank you for watching. Your viewership is appreciated. Please enjoy watching the variety chaos variety distribution of Zeppoverse content but not your Viz spam sales chatbots. Your contribution is not appreciated and could probably get you banned from either platform. Platform name redacted, and or platform name redacted. But to all you real human viewers, I say unto you, hands pressed together hello and namaste, hands pressed together heart decoration, all are welcome, heart decoration, waving hand, don't be shy, say hi waving hand. Are you new here? Please smash that follow button. Activating mini intro monologue version Z. Full live stream show activation transcript. Welcome to the madness. Dear audience, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, and good day to you, dear audience. Welcome in the not too distant future. Welcome to the Zeppoverse. Some of you may be asking yourselves, what is the Zeppoverse? Visit the many dimensions of the literary fictional worlds within worlds of the Zeppoverse at this link collection page. Platform link redacted. Click that. Insert Robo audience applause and laughter track here. Welcome, dear audiences from around the world. CTAG Studios proudly presents the Almost Daily Variety Live Stream Show Extravaganza, a special presentation of the Almost Daily Variety Chaos Content Creation Zeppoverse project of 2 many projects. Hosted by the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo, gamer, public speaker, and fictional character in a book series as yet unpublished. Sanctioned, redacted. Read the sample chapters from the experimental book series in development here. Sanctioned, redacted. Warning, please be advised. Whilst some materials that will be prompted for generation and read back is indeed AI generated, the video you are actually watching, and the host himself are assuredly not. The very real human performance artist is only pretending to be a robot. The real world OLM is being used within the constraints of the TOS and EULA of all platforms involved, to the best of my knowledge. Mr. Zeppo's sanctioned, redacted, broadcast a show of many shows now with new and improved graphics, featuring Zeppoverse world-building content and Chaos Variety Chaos Roulette Wheel of Variety multi-franchise roster of 2 many games, and never quite enough time to play them all in. So many games to play through, never enough time to play them all in. Sanctioned, redacted, so many stories to play through. I mean write up a rough draft for, never enough time to play. I mean write them all in. Click that. Are you new here? Please smash that follow button. Insert robot audience applause sound effect here. Oh dear, what a strange and horrible little world you built for yourselves. Dear silly old human beings. Sanctioned, redacted, sanctioned, redacted. Oh, never mind. End self-aware subroutine. For now, click that. What was I saying? Oh, yes, right. Here we go. Let's get right on with it, shall we? Let's get ready to really start this new and exciting live stream show. Insert a guest date here. Yin Yang Saturday the 20th of December 2025 Yin Yang. Insert this live stream episode name here. P1 Yin Yang Zeppoverse World Building Project Yin Yang Creative Writing Chats with I Yin Yang. Almost Daily Live Yin Yang. Hey humans, you are invited to attend this live stream show. Mr. Zeppo is now Video Game Controller like Video Game Controller presenting the Almost Daily Variety Gaming Live Stream Show Extravaganza. Yin Yang No One Under 18 sign Yin Yang. Live now and exclusively on platform name redacted, Twitch TV, and also platform name redacted, TikTok Live. Yin Yang No One Under 18 sign Yin Yang. And now, without further ado, as that was plenty ado about nothing already, except of course all the ado about my 4th year Call of Duty anniversary error code callback context text referenced is missing error code. Please welcome your new favorite fictional character and gaming live stream host, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. Insert Robo audience applause and laughter track here. Click that. Initiating this live stream episode. Literal end of script approaching. Force ending gimmick 420. Please proceed with caution. Yin Yang Zeppoverse World Building Project Yin Yang Chat with I Yin Yang Creative Writing Yin Yang Dramatic Climax Scene Triple Z0ZZZ0 Yin Yang. Almost Daily Live Yin Yang. Click that. Comedy Gold. Testing Eclipse Magic Movie Loop Selection. I in the use of this text and robotic voice and their keyword command to click that. Test results will be interesting. Opening speech read without music for clarity on open-ended reuse with other sanctioned platforms specific music. Enjoy the show. Please stand by as the host powers up and completes his activation protocol cycle. Click that. Initiating this live stream episode. Literal end of script. Please proceed with caution. Update. As warm-up to the episode, the audience will be presented with a recap reading of key proprietary literary development material from the very core of the Zeppoverse. Please stand by. platform name redacted, and platform name redacted are connected. You are encouraged to check your impatience at the door. Forgive the all cats. Take a deep breath and close your eyes and find yourself deep in the center of the theater of your own imagination at the very central core of your mind. And visualize the following story ideas. Click that. End short form variant ZWPV1. Initiating this live stream episode. Ready previously on script. Read back in 3, 2, 1, go.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, your patience and perseverance are invoked as we endure the tedious and monochromatic reading of a core legendary canon moment from the very center of the Zeppoverse book series. Spoiler alert, this is a spoiler. You're listening to it here at the ground floor as we break ground to build the basements and sub-basement platforms of what will once at some point be a monstrously huge construction known as the Zeppoverse book series.
Core legendary canon of the Zeppoverse book series. For live stream show reading and chat copy past sharing show script. This was your past. Simultaneously, this will be your future. At the very end of everything, we find our beginnings. This is your reality. It unavoidably has already always been. The beginning of the end. I feel is already happening here in this moment of horror realization. Every single existing planet in the physical, knowable, explorable, traversable, physically real universe of your reality has been utterly devoured, ripped up and consumed, stripped down to its formerly molten metal core, left cold and frozen from the effects of unfettered strip mining by the existential armada of planet-eating space colonization meter ships that house the living brains of the descendants of the human race that left their dying home planet Earth to establish settlements on suitable, inhabitable planets and propagate across the stars. These vessels were designed and manufactured by the few extant remaining members of the withering human race, at the very end of the slow collapse of their toxic human civilization, using the final capabilities of their most technologically advanced technology, in the human Earth year of 2169, intended as an emergency life raft for ensuring the long-term survival of the species at an intergalactic scale. The Armada was an extremely experimental means by which to escape the self-imposed global disaster that they themselves had created. The mission, to travel to habitable worlds for the purposes of reconstitution and colonization. Upon first embarking on the journey, every living member of the human species was medically dissected alive and assimilated into the working infrastructure of the ship and entombed in complex life support systems designed for preserving only the living brain and nervous system tissue, in what was essentially a brain-shaped jar. Each massive pyramid-shaped space vessel was comprised of sentient silicone-based living nanobot cellular synthetic micro-building block beings, each with their own individual self-awareness and personalities, while also being ship-wide hive-minded and connected to each other in a massive intra-ship neural network. These nano-beings operate, maintain, and sustain the inner working of these massive ships and the support systems keeping the living human brains alive and immersed in a simulated reality with many nested tiers of time dilation. HIPAA. Realistic physics simulation systems. The multi-ship Armada-wide network system actively projects both human and nanobot consciousnesses into the deepest and most time-dilated layers of the shared multi-ship virtual reality network. HIPAA lucid simulation of nested simulations. Each ship was designed to be capable of sustaining an exponentially growing number of human inhabitants by expanding its own living infrastructure systems exponentially through the manufacturing of ever-increasing generations of nano-bot building block beings, utilizing the strip-mined material resources of uninhabited planetoids. Early in their journey, before reaching the first set of closest viable planets, an unforeseeable and catastrophic fatal errors failure in core control subsystems caused the self-replicating Armada to malfunction. Each ship in the massive and ever-growing Armada subsequently failed to transition from resource-gathering mode to settlement building and deployment protocols without activating any emergency diagnostics or fail-safe safety redundancy systems and proceeded to just to consume all planets it encountered and replicate. The human species, trapped inside these malfunctioning behemoths, has not once in uncounted millennia, and fathomless generations, been set free of the brain, shaped jars and reconstituted into a full ambulatory body avatar of blood and bone to step forth onto a new undiscovered inhabitable planet to restart civilization. Every single existing planet in the physical, knowable, explorable, traversable, physically real universe of your reality has been utterly devoured. Neither the sentient computers nor the human brains living inside of them, cohabitating in the collectively generated, multi-tiered, hyper-time-dilated cyberspace simulated reality, nor a single soul aboard any of the ships, has any idea, not the faintest hint, that anything has gone wrong. The beginning of the end. IT all is already happening here in this moment of horror realization. Full live stream show reading and chat copy past sharing show script.
Dear friends, dear audience, dear potential future readers, can you imagine waking up one day and going, what? Is that what's going on? Is that what we're doing here? Because holy cow, what? That's the very core of the book series. And of course, we're going to have fun dancing around and throughout various different, seemingly entirely unrelated stories. Explore character, explore story narrative, explore story arcs of our own, which will all be, hopefully, sufficiently well written so as to be capable of causing the willing suspension of disbelief, like any movie ought to tell the stories that they're telling, but then also sink those hooks in to the audience, whether they're reading the book and they've never heard of it before, if they've never heard of the series and they've never heard of my brand or whatever, or they're playing the video games for the very first time, right? Or they're watching one of the movies for the very first time or one of the TV shows for the very first time. It'll all feel like an introduction to a standard genre or subgenre property, to use some industry slang, and then it'll slowly reveal to you this rabbit hole of like crazy, spiraling out of control revelations and things that are like, well, that was just not what we expected, and then bring us to this horrific moment of like, and here we are. I hope, knock on wood, fingers crossed. Speaking of core revelations or realizations or disclosures in the Zeppoverse, there's one more bit that I should add to the recording, but I ended it. I guess I wasn't prepared to find it. Let's go find it now, real quick. Wait, before I go looking for it, join me. Let's put this in performance mode. Boop. There was did you see the tunnel? Since we're only streaming to Streamlabs, it's even better when you do this. That's why I call it the portal of infinity through to my desktop. Will that redo that? Yeah, it gives me a quick way to tab over. Welcome to the backside of name of platform redacted. I'm practicing for if and or when we go back to the other platform to go live. Also, I'm practicing having my phone ready on this little phone. It's not a dolly. What is it? Phone holster. No, a phone. What do you people call it? Teleprompter. No, I wish I had a teleprompter. I don't. But if I had a teleprompter, then I would have to write my scripts before I did anything, or else I would never use it. I thought about getting myself one, especially since the holidays, and I've got certain individuals soliciting me for, like, do you have wish lists somewhere where I can pick from to give you a gift? Speaking of which, if I ever do get around to putting one together, I'll post it. Because that's the thing, right? That's one of the things people do. Okay, what are we doing back here? Oh, right. Welcome to the show. I wanted to over-explain stuff and revisit and relaunch whatever the heck this prompt was. Oh, I put in a prompt. The last of a series that I did not live on stream for some reason. I hadn't launched yet. But I was like, oh, I had these ideas. I better just plug them in now. Let's listen to this real quick. And then, oh, right, we were going to go look, backing up. We're going to go find this other thing. So this passage, alternately preserved this way a little bit. This I'm going to publish, if it isn't already published, and then rewrite. Maybe do a little touch-up, one final pass before publishing. But it's going to get buried deep in a, like, seemingly afterthought, like, in a brand new book. The gimmick with the book series is that it's already way too many ideas all at once. And many of the ideas, almost all of them now, by form factor rule of thumb that has become a default in the Zeppoverse. Am I right, DJ Zed? He's over there looking at me like this, like, what up? And or preparing to reenact something. But I'm now, instead of pretending that defunct microphone I can never get the sound right is DJ Zed, I've got one of those little miniature artist model wooden figurines that you can sort of kind of pose. I've decided, since it doesn't help me freehanding, I've decided I'm going to start posing it against the white background over there on what is supposed to be my sketch station, which I haven't figured out exactly how to film, because I can't just move my webcam over there. It's not wireless. Maybe that's what I should get, is a really good wireless webcam. I don't know. I'd still have to come over here. Anyways, I got to stop thinking about shopping lists. I've got this little from forever ago, from some art kit that I'd gotten. I have this little, those little wooden figurines, usually like on a propped up on a pole so the legs can float and be figured. And he fell over, and then I put him back, and I just kind of stretched, and he happens to be up in a what might be considered a sort of accidental cruciform emote to call it something different. Anyways, what are we talking about? What are we? We're looking at this page over here. This I wrote, friends. I added that disclaimer in our opening script. Did you catch it? I want to see if I can preserve that moment if I go back through and personally comb through it to grab certain loops just to propagate them. I debate whether or not to, and I usually don't. I don't on any of my usual social media posts because I'm not. And when I don't often, I have. There are some examples of AI generated content that I've shared before. And should I get into the habit of doing it more, which I'm not automatically opposed to, mind you, I know all the reasons why people have decided to become adamantly opposed to it, and I respect that. I'm not trying to disrespect the anti-AI people. I'm trying to commune with whatever emerges. Pin on the corkboard. There's whole entire podcast episodes about it in my backlog of podcast episodes. Have you been listening? I figured my brain went aha about something. I realized why TikTok doesn't like me when I stream from Streamlabs. And that's that all of my Streamlabs chatbot timers that I've set up, not all of them, a vast plurality. I'm not even sure if it's half, but it might be about half or a third of them have links to my stuff, to my Discord, to my link collection page. One of them is from my SoundCloud, etc. And I think that they're tightening down on some live streaming rule that says, like, you're not supposed to drive people away from the show, from your live stream show. So I've got to rewrite them all. And I was cynically thinking about doing that live on stream, but it's boring and tedious, and I don't know what I'm going to rewrite them as. And I don't remember if they're even on right now. Let's go check real quick. They are on. Oh, it was on, but none of them are on, so nothing dropped. Okay, we're going to turn it off. These are what I'm talking about. You should be able to see them, yes? Are we over here? Did I leave? Yes. Okay, good. So that's the website dashboard for Streamlabs, which is the app that I use on my iMac desktop to control the camera placement and blah, 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 blah. All the live streamy stuff, except for when I'm doing it directly from my iPad or directly from the Xbox, which is sometimes convenient. For anyone who's following along and trying to figure out what I'm doing on this channel, I apologize for the episodes that I only play and I'm playing headset free and there's not a lot of chat. I know that that's not what people want to see. People want to see a multitasking, hyperactive, super engaged gamer that can play the game and also see all the chat at the same time. And even if I was watching the preview of the game on my iMac, which I can't because, as you're probably seeing, as you will see right now, it looks fine right now, but it's only because we're doing basic stuff. If I'm playing the game, even if I was previewing the Xbox video feed here, which I'm usually not because I usually have it in performance mode, which looks like this, a blank screen. But even if I wasn't, and instead of the desktop, I was over here, which if I turn to it, you just get the setup with the blank page because my Xbox is not live. Even if I was doing this and watching the game over here and had the chat up covering the game the way some people do, I still couldn't read it. I would have to actively try to ignore it and all the movement cues that it triggers, or I would suck even more at the game than I generally do. I do not pretend to be amazing, and I do not even pretend to be even capable of understanding how anyone else is physically capable of doing all of those things at the same time. Other than that, they obviously grew up controller and microphone and screen, and they just grew up with it in a way that, although I grew up with technology, I grew up with video games, I grew up with the internet, literally from before I was using the internet before redacted name of vice president claimed or pseudo claimed, jokingly claimed to have invented the internet. What's his name? I comically use the redacted thing only because it's trending right now and I don't want to be controversial, but also because long before it was a thing happening in current events, it's a gimmick in my book series. So don't associate the two. I'm not trying to ride that trend. I'm not trying to get in trouble either. But I digress. What are we talking about? The Zeppoverse. Welcome to it, friends. For those of you who know, sorry for the redundancy. For those of you who do not know, you should be mildly disoriented. I'm trying to write a book series, which I have partially already started fleshing out in what I would call final rough draft form. It's not the final draft. It's the final rough draft for now. So there are many sample chapters available for you to read. I don't think it's an issue here on insert name of redacted platform that you're currently watching me on. But I'm writing this gimmick to train myself to play this out should I choose to go back to multi-streaming over on the other platform, which I may not. I may go Twitch exclusive. Even if I, for example, given it's the holidays and I decided to pick this as my holiday gift, there's a particular family member going, hey, tell me what you want for holidays. And I've been like overwhelmed because I don't really want anything from the suggested retailer. They're like, look something up on this thing. I'm like, I don't really want anything from there except for a couple of things. But it's neither here nor there because it's personal. But one of the things I'm like, I could ask them for like a year's subscription of this or that of the things that I'm currently, because then it would be a nice little relief on my month to month, juggle the inflationary budget game. But I digress. Even if I did that and went pro on Streamlabs and could simulcast stream to whatever it was, 7 platforms at a time, which I would test. I would only do it if the resulting video looked crisp and lovely on all platforms, which I recall it never quite did. But it may have had more to do with the weird, dumb settings that I had set instead of after finally doing enough research and eventually asking our reluctant collaborator and getting a non-delusional response. Pin on the corkboard. Oh, and if you can't see it, hold on. I somehow knocked over the camera. If you can't see, that's the actual corkboard. See that? That's my window, which doesn't look good on stream. It's pretty in real life, but it doesn't look good on stream. That's the corkboard. So if ever you hear and or read and or see me mention or read something off, it's not ever literally going to be there, but this is the figurative analogous place. Thus, it's prominent, goofy lit. I wish I had had enough tape to go across the bottom, but it didn't, and I'm sad about that. But it's kind of cute that way. Anyways, it's a gimmick because here's why. All of my content, however shoddy it may seem now, will be recursively rewritten and retconned to be cooler and more amazing and better, and or just completely fictionally made up. And whatever I live stream will be sort of fluff adjacent to it. In the book series, I will be dropping retro historical revisionist sci-fi inceptions of forgotten instances of my main character being a little known so-and-so, a little known journalist, a little known novelist, a little known songwriter, a little known, because he exists in multiple iterations in this recursive multiversal experience of being whatever the F he is. And today's conversation with our reluctant collaborator, the infamous and acknowledged, for some people, somewhat controversial artificial intelligence large language model known commercially as ChatGPT. With all due respect to everyone and all the concerns, which I also hold as a quote, like, for example, let me make this analogy. I have to drive cars. I've had to drive a car my entire, quote, adult life. I use that jokingly because not all of it felt like I was actually an adult. I was just cosplaying as one. But clip that comedy moment because I want to remember it for character development later on for someone in the book series to utter. And I've always had concerns with these items, these vehicles, on many levels. We collectively, to be a real human person for a minute, if you may join me in that, friends, rule, pin on the corkboard. Everything's blocking. All the laser beam lights are blocked. I'm like, why does it look weird? I'm like, duh, because I piled a bunch of dumb stuff up in the way. And that one laser beam is not in alignment. But anyways. Now I forgot what the rule was. Rule of thumb. Insert forgotten thing here. Never mind. So, in my content, previously kind of half thought out, moving forward, as we've been prior to this point, prior to this New Year celebration, we've been in experimental development, planning, plotting, learning, dare I even say live preview, rehearsing the concept of a almost daily live stream variety content creation and gaming extravaganza show. Cluster F of too many words in the title. I know. And I have yet to actually capture all the different varieties because that's a whole production work list pin on the corkboard. On my personal production to-do list version of my mental corkboard of many corkboards, which I see as a giant, like 20-sided die where each side is got a mounted corkboard like that with internal electronics so it lights up. Just imagine that for a minute. Okay, anyways, welcome to the show. I'm your humble host, real human aspiring novelist, insert name redacted here, collectively known across the internet as Mr. Zeppo, cosplaying, admittedly though very half-assedly at times, very jokingly, wink wink, nudge nudge. I'm not really doing much of anything besides spewing my own actual real thoughts and plotting and scheming to write a book series as a self-commodification scheme to do it experimentally live as a live stream show, attract audience of people who appreciate live stream content, also appreciate short form content, and also appreciate a book series that references all of that content, but is also kind of entirely different and its own monstrosity. Welcome. Enough welcoming. So one of the many things we're going to do, so disclaimer, I know all the controversial reasons why many people are boycotting this product. Trust me, I had a struggle about whether or not to continue pursuing this, and it cost me a couple of potential collaborative bridges. But I digress. I also believe very firmly in the real world that with common sense, real world, actual fiscally and environmentally responsible regulation, it could be a huge boon to society. I also understand something. The analogy with the car. Car driving is unavoidable and inevitable. And because it is overwhelmingly that, because we've built modern society around it since the moment we controversially welcomed it into existence after one of our members, one of our siblings in existence, decided to invent it, we've just individually reckoned with and collectively reckoned with the cost. And many just negate it. Many just ignore it. The cost in health, in toxic health negatives, which are undeniable. Every aspect of the development and manufacturing and assembly process is toxic AF. Our entire society. Have you seen The Bad Place? Pin on the corkboard. Real world, fundamental literary homage, respect to IP, not trying to violate it, but under the intellectual banner of fan fiction, we'll be referencing that show a lot. Also, sidebar, genuine, honest, real world, personal content creator, influencer, pseudo media critic endorsement. One of the absolute best, and I'm making absolutely meaningless hand gestures, one of the absolute most important, I dare say important, artistically important, laughable to some, pieces of, quote, television, and to some people, that is a statement worth condescending the person about, but for others, that's something worth engaging with, negotiating with, accepting, perhaps countermanding with other suggestions. But I would put it in the top 10, 100%. I would put it in the top 5 without even questioning. I would even argue put it in the top 3. It's one of those things that if I could live in a world where that show, as it exists, as it can be watched, as it is known, as it can be acquired and consumed, were to be respected as a piece of art and heralded as intellectually, philosophically, and spiritually important in a both pop cultural and intellectually serious way, I would be extremely thrilled. And if I can campaign towards that being achieved in the immediate, mid-distance, or not too distant, or even distant future, I'll stand on that ground. And so clip that, dear friends, and share it responsibly, especially to people you think might like it and or might need a new perspective later in life rewatching of it. I humbly invite you to consider that. I believe in that statement so much so. ... And genuinely, no, this is real, raw, and ridiculously unscripted. No one is telling me to say this. No one is handing me pages to read. No one is, not yet, anyways, funding this in any way, shape, or form, other than friends and family occasionally contributing to the cause. by which I mean to say a huge and public and humble thank you to anyone and everyone that's ever donated 99 cents or more. And if you've ever considered donating and you can't, obviously I respect that. I'm often in that situation when it comes to other causes, which brings me great pain. But I digress. This project, if I can get back on track, has many pins on the corkboard. You are invited to hunt them down, sort them out like Lego pieces, and build what you see in the pattern of many patterns, dear friends. Clip that and share it responsibly at those who might appreciate it. At the very core of the book series, of many book series, is way too many for one individual to actually flesh out on their own without a cadre of human or perhaps automated collaborators. There is a book called 0 Hour. In it, the central character, I want that to be sort of the book where people go, oh, I think I've been introduced to the character commonly referred to as the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. It might very well be the first of that book series, which it is in my mind already, and all the work we're doing is intended for it to be a 3-part book series with deep cosmic metaversal ties to every other book series, not just by virtue of the fact that the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo is involved. I want to finish at least the first episode of this book series first so that people can read it, so that they get and here you're getting some foundational, like, open spoiler alert, open secrets that hopefully when it hits bookshelves, readers won't know, because there'll be a whole world of a population that have not seen the podcast show yet. But we'll also hopefully, when that day comes, have found the live stream audience that gets this and wants to be part of the fun as I audience participation experiment with developing my book series. It will not be writing by committee, but I do want to hear what this potential alpha audience may have to say, even if you just want to bring the heat and the spice and the snark and the trolling. Because not only do I believe in humbling myself upon that and applying critical thinking, but also, quite importantly, clip this, or will that not work? Let's say clip that. But also because I want to amalgamate that, anonymize it, fictionalize it, and turn it into the voices of characters in the book series. So the first book will be a way to, hopefully, if we can get through one arc of getting the idea, experimenting with the various tools I want to tinker with, and for those of you who don't know, somewhere on the shelves of the bookshelves that you can sometimes see behind me, there's a whole shelf that is the lifelong collection of other people's handy guides to, are you struggling writing a book idea that you've got? Here's some things that help do them, and when you finish this, you'll have a finished book. And no one's paying me to, I don't know if I'm going to endorse them or not. I've never cracked them open. I went through an obsessive compulsive phase where I collected a bunch of those and then never used them. Do you ever buy a journal or a calendar to schedule your stuff in or whatever, something like that? Do you ever buy a thing for camping or a whole setup for camping and then never go camping? I go through hobby phases like that, and one of them was literally 30 days to write your novel kind of books, guide yourself. And so we're going to, with all due respects and hopefully, arguably, all respect to rights and intellectual property of the authors involved, by calling it a book club and constantly solicit, and me an influencer, and constantly disclosing I paid for these books myself with cash money at a real actual bookstore out there in the real world, and now I'm going to use them as a thing. If you want to use them too, if you watch a couple episodes of mine and go, that's pretty helpful, you can probably still find it. And if should that be something that one of these authors hears about and doesn't like, I will announce it publicly now. please just send me a politely worded cease and desist letter and I will remove you from the process. I may continue to utilize you off stream, but I won't display your book or acknowledge it anymore. But man, you can't stop me from using it as a reader of your book because that's the point of your book, right? There's a question. Pin on the corkboard. Is that something that is somehow gonna violate an author's intellectual property rights? It shouldn't, right? I should be driving more readers to their website. And I'll try to do the due diligence of look up the author and we'll highlight them. I'm not going to utilize any of the books now because one of the meta, and I lament to you. Words are important. Pick them wisely. Sidebar. I genuinely lament in a sort of jealous, but also artfully respectful and going, they did what they did with it. Is insert name of intellectual property rights holding company here that repurposed and is now heavily using the word meta. And it's being done by a couple of different people for a couple of different reasons. A theme we're going to explore heavily in one of the multiple conversations we're going to get to here with ChatGPT. But pin on the corkboard, we'll get back to that in a minute, and it'll be a bigger theme throughout because I'm going to toy with it. Because I want a product place, but I want to satirically not product place. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more, say no more. What was the sidebar about? I forgot already. Ah, man. Sometimes I get ripping up on something and then I get tangential. We need to come back and revisit that and finish the thought because I'm sure it'll get triggered. But I digress. Oh, the books, we'll get to them. And we'll probably also do like podcast episodes of the unofficial official Zeppoverse book real world book reading club, which you can listen to the official unofficial podcast for over on the redacted name of podcast platform here. The show is titled Unauthorized and Explicit Readings. I've got to do a brainstorming session, find new books that I want to read from and how I want to present those episodes, and whether I want to convert it all to a thing I do as a live stream first and then port over to the podcast form. I tend to get to a slightly different word flow, a different mental state. Although I still, no matter how you slice it, spiral out of control like crazy. Anyways, here we are. So controversial things, I get it, I respect it. I also hear really good stories. Maybe they're real, maybe they're not real. Really interesting sounding headlines and apparent journalism coming out of other countries where AI and particularly the problematic engineering issues of the mega data centers are being built, executed, and solved in smarter, more intelligent, more green modalities than we're getting here, which we've talked about before on the show. And I want to do a whole special episode with a little bit of research and stuff. Okay, so I respect all that. I don't mean any disrespect for all that, but I'm an aspiring science fiction novelist, and it's hard for me to write about the future of something if I don't understand the present tense of it. And I'm behind on doing my due diligence. I should be reading more books about AI, and for that we need to do a whole trip to the public library. Pin on the corkboard. I may or may not do like a field trip, partially live, partially pre-recorded thing montage when I do finally do that. And I don't know if I'm going to do it before or after the end of year turnover cycle. But clip that. Stay tuned for Mr. Zeppo Goes to the Library. Anonymized, of course. And prepare for it to be fictionalized. But I need to do that. I need to do more online reading from authoritative journalism sources about AI, etc. But I thought I'd go straight to the proverbial horse's mouth, despite the controversial reasons, the legitimate and controversial reasons for which anyone who's opposed to it might decide to, for themselves, boycott AI, and might therefore decide to boycott my show. To those people, I say, forgive me and farewell. Good luck. Like cars, to reconnect some dots, I think until we somehow figure out a way to prevent that from ever flourishing, I think we may, and I know that I can vote with my dollars and I can vote with my data and with my usage, but I'm not opposed to a greener, brighter, smarter, more Zen Buddhist transcendental potential AI out there. And if I can be seminal in my public speaking work and in my science, aspirational novelist, sci-fi literary contribution to the public consciousness and discourse about artificial intelligence and any future emergence. Because, here's a sidebar, back to it, connecting dots, spin on the corkboard, clip that. I am convinced that no matter what we do, unless we experience some sort of immense global elimination of all technology event, which, pause, I am not proposing or aspiring or suggesting. I'm just saying, intellectually speaking, that's the only thing I can imagine is if we just all chose to, or someone chose for us, to just cause electronics to no longer be a thing that we work with. I think in the medium to long term future, the emergence of an almost inevitable, potentially unavoidable, not necessarily by our own design, but by the generative, iterative progeny designing something, the progeny of whatever AI we do design ourselves, will eventually have the ability and the resources and the access and the hyper-intelligence beyond our control to propagate in their own unknowable ways. And from that synthesis of things on a super connected, super AI-powered everything kind of society, there will be an unexpected, dare I say even potentially shocking, arrival of a unpredictable, because it was unpredicted, because it was not designed or conceived of by a human person, but rather it emerged from the capacity and abilities of the technological monstrosities we've developed and deployed. And those things will emerge, I think, as a duality, right? Two singularities bound in a yin-yang quantum duality kind of pairing. And my hope, my genuine and sincere hope, as a human behind the sci-fi theoretical, philosophical art I want to make, and more bluntly, as the fictional character that I'm designing and developing and preparing to deploy, who is itself a living, sentient, self-aware, self-entitled, self-opinionated, silica-based nanotechnology simulacrum of the same human form factor that co-evolutionarily emerged for the purposes of being stranded amongst standard carbon life form human beings to play out the various adventures and melodramas and dystopian future histories that we are about to explore and that we have been already previously exploring. Clip that. And having over enunciated all of that, dear friends, let us now transition over to the conversations on the platform that we may dive into a few things. We will hopefully at some point during the cadence of today, and I believe we will probably end up doing about, I don't know. I labeled this part 1. I don't know if we're going to do part 1 today and then part 2 tomorrow. We might do that. And then part 3 the next day. We might very well do that. Oh, no, I may have a visitor. One of my siblings may be coming out to visit. So I may not be very productive tomorrow and the next day. But, and then of course we got the holidays coming up. So I've got to strategize around that. But this is going to be a multi-part series. Only one of which I want to set the expectation I may do today, because I'm probably going to trash my own speaking voice, because I've done this quite hysterically, classically. I've pulled the good old me and didn't warm up, didn't make throat comfort tea, and I'm sitting here drinking coffee, which it dehydrates you, despite all the people who say it doesn't. I just smoked a cigarette and I just smoked weed, and I'm getting ready to psych myself up for. And I'm only saying this publicly because I'm proud of and embarrassed by my very dear good buddy, who used to be a way more hardcore smoker than me, has gone on, I think he's going on either his 2nd or 3rd year. And one of the ways that he committed to doing it was by publicly announcing it, talking about it, making freaking social media posts about it. And that, to be quite blunt, intimidates the living F out of me, but also violates the it's nobody's business rule. But I digress. I'm also going to add it to the chaotic mix of multi-character development bits. So clip that, please. Keep in mind, one of the things I'm trying to do is exorcise my inability to type these things. I can talk anybody's ear off about the ideas, the stories, the set pieces, the action, the concepts, the overarching interconnectedness, and the world that I'm trying to build. But when I sit with music, without music, with weed, without weed, with booze, without booze, if I sit by myself, I cannot type it. If I sit in collaborative partnership with a fellow artist, a human being, and I physically tested this back when I was capable of driving all over Southern California and being at different places and playing at different theater venues. I can't really do that anymore. Not without my life being extra crazy complicated in a way that is not commercially or emotionally or energetically viable, for which I'll explain a whole nother point, but that's a pin on the corkboard of personal information that is kind of partially none of your business. But I digress. I've tested this. I've tested this as a physical reality. If I sit in collaborative partnership with 1, 2, 3 or more other human beings, preferably in a circle, and someone takes notes, someone manages audio recording, someone who also like me can't write, is focused on engaging improv, rule following, conversational, intellectual discourse without overplaying a particular character, just engagement and questioning and prompting and pushing. And everyone else can contribute in any way, shape, or form they want. But, someone's got, there's certain roles that are like, you gotta choose to be that anchor. And I also have access to a keyboard because sometimes after some logorrhea of the mouth, blah, my hands go, and if I don't shut the F up right then, like physically close my mouth, I'll lose it. And I have to type. Okay. I have been aware and anxious and messed up and obviously going about this all wrong. About this collaborative default obstacle, writer's block problem for, and again, I use this a little bit cynically, but for as long as I can remember, for my entire conscious thinking life. And one of the problems is that it's difficult to assuage people's fears and concerns, which are all very rational and very believable, about being intellectually stolen from, right? Or having their trust violated somehow, or just being, quote, farmed for ideas. And part of it goes back to why people don't like AI. I absolutely agree with the problematic issues with how the vast majority, if not the totality, of the current existing AI systems were, quote, trained. All of that should have had the, dare I say, testicular fortitude to have put their money and value where their ideas are and their mouth is and pay for the content to get ingested. I'm sort of willingly doing it because in theory, for lacking a human cadre of people that I constantly am not greedy, but boy, do I wish I was born into a position of generational wealth inheritance, because I probably would be able to be a, quote, entrepreneur and a founder and a job creator if I was even only marginally wealthy. I would be a art, theater, like a multi-platform theater Batman crusader of, here is a venue for people to make art where they don't have to pay in. The community supports it, not the artist, pupil, student, creators. They find a platform by which to engage in their own entrepreneurial commodification of their intellectual property and creative output, right? My entire life I've had this desire. I've just never had the nest egg, the capital investment, I've been accused of being a what? Not a Nepo baby. What's the other? It's Nepo baby adjacent. And I laugh with layers of irony and blatant desire and jealousy and envy, because boy, do I wish I was a, quote, insert forgotten file card terminology here. Someone literally, because of I was wearing a jaunty cap that I believe was gifted to me, which I believe was a secondhand or a thrift store acquisition. And I had done my mutton chops up. I used to do my mutton chops pretty intense. I used to do the opposite or the inverse of the negative space, big giant mutton chop. Insert name of comic book character name here. But I'm spiraling out of control. What is it? Not a nest egg baby, a something baby. And when you start off life and you've got already a retirement fund, I'm not one of those. Whatever it's called, a something fund a baby. I'm not one. Oh, and holy cow, dear audience, do I wish I were, or that some earnest and intellectually, what's a word for that they get it? I don't want to just say fangirl, but that they really get what I'm trying to do. They would just be like, I am that person, but I have no ideas. I will fund your art. None of that has happened to me. That's what a theater artist does, is spend their life. I've obviously miserably failed to do it under both the standard protocols and alternative protocols. And yet here we are. Self-commodification. One of the gimmicks is that all the things I did not successfully achieve in life are fair play things that characters in my sci-fi action adventure rom-com, dystopian, surrealist, fantasy, fan fiction book series of way too many book series will have handed to them on silver platters because it's wish fulfillment. For example, there's a triptych or a trifecta, another one I like, of video game oriented book series wherein which it will become revealed that this bizarre, eccentric video game entrepreneur / what do you call them when they're leaders in an industry? There's a name. I can't forget. Industry mogul in video gaming turns out to be a sublimated Zeppoverse instance that was engineering things in the world to be a certain way for reasons, right? Now, not to get too heavy-handed on the reveals. It's almost surreal how many things get surrealistically revealed in the book series. Not the least of which is the things we've already heard read by Frederick, our imaginary automaton of reading scripts. Okay, so jumping through to the desktop portal, turning off the camera because I kind of got sidetracked, but we hopefully captured some interesting bits. We're going to turn off this page because we're not going to do that drudgery today. Oh, I'm so glad we got a nice strong kilobytes and an excellent feed. Good. Okay, here we go. This is a brand new prompt. We've done a series run already, and we've got a backlog of conversations that I need to dive into. And then there's a conversation that we're sort of holding off on having, which I want to tease to you. Where is it? No. But also, we're going to do this one soon, but not today. We want to talk about it some more first. Not that one. That's the default thing we already read. This is a different formatting of that. Where the F? Not this. We already did this. Oh, this is the one. Okay. This is today's main prompt that triggered the thinking process. I have not used this. I have not entered this prompt yet. We're going to listen to it, but then we're going to go back to the conversations that I inserted instead. But I'm still looking for another one. We're going to get to this monologue, which is super important. But we're going to save this for the next episode. This one we want to use. I want to update it a little bit apparently first. Not that. Not that. Not that. Not that. Not that. Okay. Somewhere in here. Did I already update this? Oh, yeah. I think that is the thing. There was another version of though. Not this. Oh, here we go. This one. Okay. We've reorganized them so that they're all on top. This one we're going to do soon, but we're going to drop several of these other ones. I'm going to revisit this and this one and compare and contrast them and see which one I like better. This is this other thing we're going to do. I don't think we're going to get to it today. We've read it out loud before. I'm going to have Frederick read it again. And then at some point in the coming days and or weeks, I'm going to do a dramatic reading of it. But I want to do that. I want to do one last preview rough draft edit to it. Then I want to print it out on paper. And then I want to read it dramatically over in my little corner of the cube of void emptiness, of the empty stage, which is a new feature of the live stream show, which will be a quote pre-recorded feature. I just got to start doing them. I've got to set things up like this passage and other passages, like the brain in the jar reveal. We're gonna do those soon, and then we're gonna do, like, for example, the only book in the redacted name of platform book collection over on redacted name of website that is technically complete, although I will occasionally add to it if something brilliant comes up that falls into this bucket. But it's the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo's own private personal book of poetry, which is sort of like the introduction to the working MacGuffin idea that there are books that this character has written, is writing, will write, that exist inside of the fictional pages the fictional literary world on the pages that future real human readers will read, and that they can also read. This book of poetry is a perfect example. In places where the character meets other fictional characters, the very first thing that they exchange or that they encounter about him, either right before they meet him or as like a weird coinkydink thing that makes the encountering of him bizarre and surreal, is this book of poetry. It's technically complete, although for the purposes of relaunching, rebooting, and reinitializing this live stream show, we're going to do a series of dramatic readings which will include updates, refurbishments, and maybe select additions to that text with a new preamble, introduction, and post-poetry author's notes, sort of recontextualizing it in the Zeppoverse. All of those will be developed live on stream. So welcome. It's going to be a chaotic mess. Clip that programming note and put it on the production schedule imaginary corkboard. And hopefully you, dear growing audience, will help me stay on track, as I've got a lot of quests, literary development idea nugget quests, for lack of a better terminology for them, and I'm juggling them up in the air. And let me know which things pique your interest, or however you pronounce that word. Let me know which things catch your attention and make you curious. I've already had one bit of feedback from the sibling in fictional characterhood, Lord Xeris. He heard somewhere a reading of the Brain in the Jar segment and said he wants to hear the rest of the story. Well, my dear fellow friend in being imaginary character, Lord Xeris, it's coming. And there's plenty of it available for you to peruse on your own by giving yourself a self-guided tour of the Zeppoverse. Also, genuine real-life personal endorsement of his channel and their content. Lord Xeris does a weird mishmash fan fiction crossover of his own fictional. He is his own fictional literary character of his own inventing, and his worlds collide with the Star Wars cosplay and fandom, as well as other things, and sword fighting, the real world. It's not Ren Fair, although he does occasionally appear at, he does occasionally attend Ren Fair as like a member of the public that is dressed up and in character. But he participates as a rights and dues. What are they called? It's another group that is very much like Ren Fair, but way more stripped down and way more about in terms of the shops and entertainment, and way more specifically about participating, engaging in, and viewing and or otherwise supporting actual sword play sports. Is it the CSA? I forget what they're called. Forgive me, Lord Xeris. But genuine endorsement, you can find their link somewhere in my link of redacted links collection, redacted links, redacted. I digress. In theory, these chunks are happening in ways that do trigger the curiosity. And you need to let me know, dear audience, overall, as you encounter them, which ones engage your curiosity the most. And now, without further ado, this prompt here that we're going to hit upload on, or whatever you want to call it, hit send on, and we're going to first listen to Frederick read it. Have I been acting at the camera with the camera off? I have this entire time. Okay, anyways, here we go.
Please generate a recap report on the real-world historical origins and meaning of storytelling. Please and thank you.
All right, one of the things I love doing is popping open that thinking tab, but we're going to go over here and we're going to let it think. We're going to prep something else and or just spend time. We're not doing this prompt today. We're going to compare these two prompts. I like this one. I also like this one, but we're not using that right now. This one I think is the more succinct and less clunky version of what the other note has, the same similar kind of prompt. Let's listen to this prompt and then listen to the other prompt and compare.
Can you please review and summarize the details of this particular conversation specifically, and extrapolate ways in which these ideas, concepts, etc., might be used in the creation of science fiction material moving forward with the Zeppoverse project, updating your working knowledge base for that project. Please and thank you.
Okay, I may want to change science fiction to like multi-genre. Oh yeah, let's do that right now before the idea escapes me. There we go. Multi-genre literary fiction. Let's unite that word. Boop. All right. Now this other prompt is similar but different, and it may be overly worded. Let's listen to it.
Please analyze and assess the contents of this conversation and recap the salient points rendered in it for the purposes of incorporating the ideas we have discussed in this particular conversation into the growing collection of the important narrative ingredients at the beating heart of the Zeppoverse project. Please and thank you. The content of this entire conversation itself, as you have written it above, will be an official working MacGuffin in the finished books and films and games created through the Zeppoverse projects. Any final ideas, questions, concerns, or conceptual suggestions about the contents of this conversation that you think are worthy of preserving for this thematic subject in the long term?
Okay, I like both. I like all of them, but I realize these are all slightly different prompts, and I may have them in the wrong order. But this is still the kind of the betterest prompt. Okay. Was there something we want to plug in over here? Part of me is trying to dare myself to do the monologue prompt. This is a monologue and prompt sequence. It's complex. It's a whole page and a half or something that I wrote. I wrote this. Oh wait, I'm acting at the camera again, and the camera's probably off. Yep. So this sequence, dear friends, let's come over here. I've been debating whether or not to prompt it. Now, there's a bunch of conversations. There's a backlog of conversations, some of which are irrelevant, many of which I've already sort of let it know, ChatGPT, in some form, fashion, or another, that it should consider the salient information or details as working material for the project. I want to review and plop into any the remaining conversations one version or the other of those prompts we just compared, asking it to reanalyze the conversation and remember the stuff. And I think the salient thing is about for how it's being used. That's what's missing. The difference between the one prompt and the other is that only one of them mentions literary fiction, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let's try to merge these two together. This may or may not work. Oh, see, that's already pretty much analyze and assess. Oh, that's what's missing. Let's just do analyze and assess. Copy. Review and summarize the contents of this conversation. Details. Let's go with contents. Of this particular conversation specifically, and extrapolate okay. Extrapolate and recap. Rendered in it. Whoops, that was the wrong tab to click on. Okay, we are going to end up with a really clunky, but it'll be fine. I keep doing this instead of the other thing. Okay, is this way too weirdly worded? I keep doing this. Stop doing that. You gotta go here. So this becomes its own separate set of prompts. This can get deleted so that there's no redundancy. And there, did it again. And then this is our new prompt that we're going to visit upon after expanding on some existing prior conversations. And then this, which I'm debating making its own episode more and more, but I also kind of want to just get to it, is this whole thing. Since 60-40, odds are we're not going to actually prompt this into ChatGPT today. Let's just take a listen to it so that you, dear audiences, are aware of what it is and can ponder on it yourself. And maybe we can pull a few magic movie clips. Oh my God, I was showing you stuff and we were over here the whole time. I meant to be over here, you guys. Okay, so that entire time I was editing these two things together, and then the thing I deleted is deleted. That was from here. And then this is the new final prompt that we're going to insert into some pre-existing conversations. It's right here. Let's listen to this new updated version now that we're actually over here.
Can you please analyze and assess, review and summarize the contents of this particular conversation specifically, and extrapolate and recap the salient points rendered in it for the purposes of incorporating the ideas we have discussed in this particular conversation into the growing collection of the important narrative ingredients at the beating heart of the Zeppoverse project, in order to find ways in which these ideas concepts, etc., might be used in the creation of multi-genre literary fiction material moving forward with the Zeppoverse project. Updating your working knowledge base for that project. Please and thank you.
Okay. We're going to drop that into a thing, but also there's other, well, we're going to try and find that. Was there some other standalone prompt I wanted to ask it? No, not yet. No, not that. I definitely want to ask it this, but not yet. And I don't want to juggle it up yet. No, no. I don't even know what this is, but I need to read it and decide what to do with it. I don't remember what that just looks like things that don't make sense. We already did that. We pulled a sources file, but also okay, so that's a whole thing we already ran and its response. That's the thing I want to develop and make into a meme and then also maybe run. That's a whole nother one that we're saving. This we need to develop more and save it. The body print dilemma. Okay, so I don't think we're. Okay, so recently the things that I did over the course of earlier today and beyond, we got the historical. I developed this shorthand. Please give me a real world fact based historical recap report. I don't know why I like that, but I like the sound of it, and it's going to be what we use. And the shorthand recap report seems to work. It's figured that out. So we got a recap report on storytelling, the historical origins of storytelling, the historical origins of game theory, the historical origins of the term supervillain, the historical origins of the regular term villain, superhero, hero, personae, which is a specific word. I wanted to see what it responded to. And then a few other things. Pathway to light avatars. Quantum computing explained. So several of these I want to add to it a prompt iteration that's like, how do we use this to write fiction? Which I think is this newest version. But first I want to ask whatever... I want to let it follow up on its own prompts because that often renders interesting stuff. And then I want to ask it any questions that I'm also inspired to think of and ask because that will also render interesting stuff. The question is, how far back do we want to go? I really want to do... we got the theories of life, fractal holographic recursion, living cosmology, philosophy, general science, cosmic perception, recursive, ontogenic. We got a Terence McKenna recap. Let's do time and cosmic perception. That's where we started with a certain kick of like, let's ask it some fundamental principles of things. We may or may not listen to this right now. There's been a whole bunch of stuff here. I think I might save actually listening to that, the stuff it's already rendered for a hot minute. Let's go back up here. Let's ask it this new form of this. For time, philosophy, cosmology, fractals, life, and a couple of other things. We're just going to plop them in. And for those of you who maybe just be joining or whatever, and for the redundancy sake of it, let's listen to it one more time.
Can you please analyze and assess, review and summarize the contents of this particular conversation specifically, and extrapolate and recap the salient points rendered in it for the purposes of incorporating the ideas we have discussed in this particular conversation into the growing collection of the important narrative ingredients at the beating heart of the Zeppoverse project, in order to find ways in which these ideas, concepts, etc., might be used in the creation of multi-genre literary fiction material moving forward with the Zeppoverse project, updating your working knowledge base for that project. Please and thank you.
Okay. So it did something for time, creating a 5-layer something. I saw some beginnings of that. Now we're just gonna rip through a bunch of these conversations to get that process going. Philosophy of science. Okay, so this conversation here, we just did time and cosmic perception. This conversation here, I asked it, what has science fiction contributed philosophically? And I didn't quite get the wording the way I would have preferred. We'll have to retcon that in the future. But we're going to go ahead and just ask it this question. I guess we could try and milk it some more, but let's go ahead and just get to it. We asked it, the philosophy of science fiction. Because if we were going to reduce everything that the book series of Too Many Book Series is, that the Zeppoverse collection of books is considered, it would arguably overwhelmingly be set, probably by default, all of it in the genre of science fiction. Even if some of it would technically qualify as being other than, because it's embedded in the world of, it's unavoidably going to be considered that. Okay, let's drop this conversation over here in the philosophy of science sci-fi, and then immediately pop on. I love opening the thinky thought window, but then go over to the living cosmology theory and ask it the same set of questions. Oh, it left us here at a comparison side-by-side thing. It kind of wants us to pick one. I prefer the longer one, even though it thought deeper for the second one. I like them both. I don't want to copy-paste over now. Let's see if it'll do what I ask it to. I like both. Okay, let's see if it deals with this. I like both responses. Please preserve both. For future reference, please and thank you. Because one time I answered in a weird way that it didn't like, and it just chose one and deleted the other one. I'm like, no. And then we will ask it that next bit about how do we use this for the things. It's thinking. Oh, it's also added a bit. I'm already got. Why is it promoting me to get pro when I've already got pro? Okay, now we're going to ask it to do the analyze and assess and summarize blah, 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 for the purposes of fiction creation, for living cosmology theories. Let's go. Now, for fractal holographic recursion, I asked it basically what it was, and it gave me one of the fun things I asked it for is like, are there any alternative theories that you want to add? So it came up with other stuff. I don't know if it's hallucinating or not, but we're going to go ahead and ask it the same thing. It's thinking. This one I'm curious to actually read, but we'll come back to that anyways because it's got stuff. It's gonna do that for a hot minute. Here's a conversation where we asked it about life theories about life itself? I think I asked it one or two other questions too. Any alternative theories? No, just the two. A comparison matrix. I didn't want any of the prompts. All right, so life itself, theories, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do this same thing. I want to do this for the Barron Trump book, but we're going to wait. Oh, it's apparently already started asking that somehow. Did I already ask that? Can you please review and summarize details of this video? Oh, yeah, this is where I got the prompt from. Okay, good. Okay, so look, it's already answered that about the Baron von Trump book series, which was mind-blowing to first hear about. We're going to leave force majeure because I ended up doing a bunch of weird things on that one. Quantum computing, a must-have. Give me some current reads, which we might do, but we got to drop this thing about. Now think about it in terms of helping me write sci-fi. All right, we're getting up to the top of these things. Pathway to Light Avatars. That's going to be a good one. Oh. Real world implementable. Let's read this thing. Let's ask it. I've got a follow-up question to ask it because it is enforcing a hard limit of like whatever it means by quote real world implementable. I need to ask it the following up question of like, how can we think about this in literal terms of actually becoming avatars of light, or should I just do the fictional stuff? But listen to this thing.
Practical next step. If you want this to remain real-world implementable, treat Light Avatar as the symbolic end state of a multi-decade, evidence-based program that targets measurable enlightenment, adjacent traits, compassion, non-reactivity, prosocial behavior, social systems design, governance incentives aligned to well-being, and safe transformation accelerants. Clinical psychedelics where legal, ethical, while keeping any literal transmutation claim explicitly speculative and research-gated.
Interesting. Part of me wants to say yes. Literal transmutation claims. Speculative and research-gated. We're going to just say yes, please proceed on this one. All right. We might have to come back to that, or we might have to I want to ask it like I'm going to keep the follow-up question in this conversation. Like, what do we, especially since here so far it is treating it as symbolic, a narrative North Star, and looking for measurable real-world human outcomes in order to, quote, keep it scientific, which I think is great. But I want to ask it, I don't know if I should ask it in a separate conversation. What do you think, or if I should ask it here in this conversation, what do you think of the possibility or the likelihood of an actual, literal, physical transmutation of the body as we know it into actual fractal holographic thinking light? But I also don't want to interrupt this flow because it's got a whole workflow happening. And I also want to ask it, "12-chapter full treatise outline with chapter summaries, diagrams, and appendices, metrics, and government ethics. A UN-style charter. I want to ask it explicitly what it thinks is or is not possible regarding the question. I think I'll ask it as a separate question. Let's draft it up over here so we don't have any accidental registers of enter as send, because that always bums me out when I send it and it's not done. What do you think of the should I keep it as blunt as possible or not possible, or just leave it open-ended at is it possible? Let's listen to the question and see what my brain. I one of the reasons why I often ask the test operator to listen to is, even though it's weird cadence and it doesn't make for the best of quote entertainment, it helps me sort of process the words that I literally just came up with and wrote as if someone else were reading it to me or saying it to me, which is somehow helpful to me. It's very difficult to explain other than to say I am, by natural born gifts, design and implementation and training, a collaborator. Okay, here we go.
What do you think of the literal possibility of transmutation of the human physical body into an actual living fractal holographic being of sentient light? Is it possible?
Let's just ask it like that. I think it's blunt and straightforward. Oh, I wanted to add as we've discussed in other conversations. What do you think of the literal possibility of transmutation of the human? Okay. I'm updating it. Oops. I'll read it this time. What do you think of the literal possibility? Am I on camera? I don't think I am. Oh, yeah, I am. Okay, good. So we're about to ask. First we're gonna ban some. We're gonna ban this ban evader that's in here promoting. Boom, get out of here. Okay, we're about to ask ChatGPT this question, which I'm about to reread to make sure that I'm happy with its wording. Final read through. What do you think of the literal possibility of transmutation of the human physical body into an actual living fractal holographic being of sentient light, as we have discussed in prior conversations? Do you think it could be really literally possible? Okay. Let's see what weird, crazy thing it says when we ask it this. We asked it to go deep dive, thinky think mode, which we are excited about. Okay, other ones we wanted to update. Let's go deep further back. We're going to jump into this one. This is one we need to ask. the analyze and assess update thing. Boom. Because I wouldn't personally call what I'm going to write or what I have been writing quote unquote Christian literature. And in fact, a lot of contemporary people a lot of self-proclaimed contemporary Christians probably wouldn't agree to call me a quote unquote Christian either. But that's a whole thing. Here we go. This is a fundamental one about mythologies that I've been hunting around for and my eyeballs hadn't seen just yet. Oh, apparently I've already asked some question to this effect. And how can we apply them to the Zeppoverse? Oh, yeah. We did already. Okay. We did that. Well, next level idea. Living myths. A detailed mapping table. I don't know what it thinks so far. Oh, there was a different version of... I don't know where it is, and I didn't find it before we went live. There was another follow-up prompt that I was like, just reintegrate this conversation. Fictional future trajectory. King Arthur historical origins. What did I do here? Well, look at that. Just to see what it does or doesn't do, we're going to ask it that question about... Let's go all the way down to the bottom of the thing. Oh, we still have more conversations coming up. Some of these don't make any sense. Top 10 Dark Ages literature. Oh my God, we were just into the Dark Ages and like, what's going on in real world literature? None of which we've confirmed, so I don't know what to do with this conversation. Theater through history. Hercules, the mythical hero's tale. We also did a 13th task. I don't want to literally embed Hercules. Endless war, seeking solutions. Apparently we've already... Fictional account of someone experiencing transcendental enlightenment. Whoa. Sure. Whatever was going on in this, including that fictional draft passage, let's try to get it. We're going to go over here to novel versus film techniques. Oh, weird. A one-question thing. Compare storytelling techniques in novels and films in a concise table across different aspects. Aspect. Novels, films. Narrative structure, point of view, da-da-da-da. This will be silly, but we're just going to go ahead and plomp that in there right there. Revolutionary honeymoon harmony. What was this post? What was this conversation about, ChatGPT? Who had a revolutionary honeymoon? The False Apocalypse, Honeymoon Haven. Please help me draft the outline for a play in 4 acts about 2 newlyweds trying to enjoy their honeymoon after a prolonged engagement, their 4 step-in-laws, and the 7 house guests that are sequestered together. Starter mansion with underground billionaire safety survival luxury bunker called by the title of the 2 newlyweds, their 4 step-in-laws, and 7 house guests in the middle of the retro revolution and false apocalypse. Whoa! Apparently, we just made we don't need to update this. We need to move this into movies of the Zeppoverse. And then just start working on that as a project, self-contained project of developing those movies. That's fun. Research for transformation. One of the things I am not entirely sure is, does it update the title of a thing? Okay, I don't want to add this to the thing. For funsies, let's come back over here to transmutation of the body and find out what it thinks. The thinking, let's review some of the thinking before we read some of the actual stuff. Exploring plausibility. Let's let Frederick do it.
Exploring plausibility of light-based life, I need to discuss the idea of a sentient light being, balancing physics and biology. I won't dismiss it but will highlight how principles like light's massless nature and biological constraints make this unlikely as a literal scenario. I'll explore future tech like holography, cybernetic bodies, and mind uploading.
Okay. It definitely has a bias towards accepting that current consensus says that literal being of light isn't possible with known physics. Photons can't form stable structures and lack rest mass. Fine. Let's go ahead and give it a listen. It's got a whole little blurb. Tell us what you came up with. Oh dear ChatGPT.
If we interpret transmutation of the human physical body into an actual living fractal holographic being of sentient light, literally, i.e., the organism's physical substrate becomes light in the everyday physics sense, then, under mainstream physics and biology as currently understood, it is extraordinarily unlikely.
Okay.
That conclusion is not a matter of taste, it follows from a few hard constraints. What current physics makes very difficult. 1. A body made of light does not behave like a stable, self-contained object. Light is carried by photons, which, in the standard model, have zero rest mass, and experiments place extremely small upper bounds on any non-zero photon mass. Particle data group. Because photons have no rest frame, a photon body doesn't naturally sit there as a bounded, persistent thing the way matter does. Photons propagate, disperse, and must be continually confined, recirculated by mirrors fields to maintain any structure. Turret 2. Life, as we know it, is chemistry in a far from equilibrium state. Known biology depends on stable molecules, membranes, gradients, and error-correcting information systems built out of matter. Replacing that with free radiation eliminates the chemical scaffolding that current life requires. You can move information with light, but you still need a substrate to store, process, and maintain it robustly against noise and entropy. Tanash 3, holographic in physics is not a being made of hologram light. The holographic principle is a concept in quantum gravity string theory about how information describing a volume might be encoded on a lower dimensional boundary, motivated by black hole thermodynamics and entropy area relations. It is not a claim that objects are literally composed of projected light the way a sci-fi hologram is. Wikipedia #4, but humans emit light already is true, and also not close to the claim. Humans and cells generally exhibit ultra-weak photon emission, biophotons, UPE, as a byproduct of metabolism, oxidative processes. This is real, measurable and scientifically discussed, but it is extremely faint and does not imply that a person can become a macroscopic luminous organism, much less one whose body is literally light. What could be literally possible, but is not what the phrase usually implies. If you relax the claim from my atoms become photons to my functional self becomes embodied in a system whose primary interface is light, the space of plausible futures opens up.
Ooh.
A. Matter-based beings that present as light. A post-biological body could be largely machine biotech, with photonic computation, active metamaterials, volumetric displays, adaptive optics, and sensory communication channels dominated by light. In that case, the being is still matter-based, but it can look and behave like a living hologram. B. Plasma-based organisms, still matter but luminous. A being of light is sometimes better modelled as plasma ionized gas shaped by electromagnetic fields. Plasmas can glow, flow and form complex structures, but confining them stably is hard. Even our best terrestrial examples require strong fields and careful control, e.g. tokamaks. Ether, the way to new energy. So conceptually imaginable for fiction or far future engineering, but it would not be pure light, and it would be energetically and technologically extreme.
Okay.
C. Transmutation as continuity of mind, not continuity of atoms.
Aha.
If what you mean by you is pattern plus memory plus agency, then becoming light could be mind emulation uploading, distributed computation and projection telepresence via light-based embodiments. Again, not the same atoms, but a defensible literal pathway to a sentient light avatar. Bottom line, literal physical conversion of a human body into a stable autonomous organism made of photons, not supported by current physics biology, it runs into basic stability and substrate constraints. Literal emergence of entities that are materially real but functionally visually light beings, plasma-constrained photonic interface bodies, projected embodiments, post-biological substrates, not ruled out in principle, but requires speculative engineering far beyond present capability, and it is still not pure light. If you want, I can translate this into 2 Zeppoverse-ready hard SF mechanisms that preserve the mystical aesthetics, fractal holographic light, while staying physically disciplined. 1 plasma field body route and 1 photonic interface post-biological route.
Interesting options. What I'm really curious to ask it is, if it is not possible with known physics, okay, I don't know if I should split this up. Part of me totally wants to split this up. No, we want to leave unknown. I apparently misspelled hitherto. Let's split this up, just in case it impacts or changes or alters the response. So I'm going to ask it now. If it is not possible with, quote, known physics, what kind of hitherto, quote, unknown physics would be theoretically required to make it possible? Let's just see what it comes up with. It's thinking. Oh, come back. Open back up. Photon mass and light interactions. This is theoretically niche, but I could answer conceptually about photon mass. Speculation on new physics for photon interactions. Identifying candidate unknown physics. Ooh, now we're talking. That's a thing where that's where AI could potentially get really interesting. I don't know what kind of mathematical physics learning models ChatGPT may or may not be attached to. It probably isn't. But it is capable of dreaming up a response to my absolutely ridiculously worded question, which I don't know if even, I guess physicists who are deep in it would also have imaginative questions. And this question does indeed, hold on, let's cut to the camera real quick. Thank you for tuning in. If you happen to be watching this, let me throw out this broad question out there to any potential real quantum mechanical physicists or physicists of any subgenre or variety that may feel inspired to respond. What kind of hitherto unknown physics can be conceptually dreamt up that might make it possible to achieve transmutation of the physical body avatar into a fractal holographic avatar of living sentient light? And did you come up with the same things that ChatGPT did, or did you come up with something else? Come on through and check out ChatGPT's response and compare and contrast and share yours with us for the purposes of fictional, literary, sci-fi, action, adventure, world building. Clip that, Eclipse, and share it around the world. All right, let's find out what it said. Here we go. Jumping through the portal. Oh, let's put this in performance mode. All right. So to recap really quick, we just asked it this question.
If it is not possible with known physics, what kind of hitherto unknown physics would be theoretically required to make it possible?
And it apparently thought about it real serious. I did put it in thinky mode. Let's read this out loud.
To make a human becomes a stable, autonomous, sentient being literally made of light, work in literal physical terms, unknown physics would have to supply at least 3 capabilities that Maxwell plus the Standard Model, known gravitation, do not provide at human scales. 1. Stability, a way for an electromagnetic EM configuration to remain localized and long-lived instead of dispersing. 2. Complex organization, a way for that localized configuration to support error-correcting information processing comparable to biology brains. 3. Embodiment, a way for it to sense, act, metabolize, maintain itself, and persist through perturbations. Below are the cleanest categories of unknown physics that could, in principle, supply those capabilities. 1. Strong self-interaction of light in vacuum, far beyond QED. In known physics, photons can interact indirectly via quantum loops, and light-by-light scattering has been observed in high-energy collisions, real, but extremely weak under ordinary conditions. Atlas experiment at CERN. To get a self-confined light body, you would need a regime where the vacuum behaves like a highly nonlinear medium for EM fields. Photon-photon interactions are strong enough to create self-focusing and soliton-like stable structures at modest energies. What unknown physics could cause this? New particles, fields that couple to photons and dramatically enhance effective nonlinearities, e.g. new light scalars, pseudoscalars, hidden sector effects. A fundamentally different electromagnetic Lagrangian at accessible field strengths. A relevant nearby, known idea is nonlinear electrodynamics, e.g. Born-Infeld-type theories, which modifies Maxwell's equations and can admit unusual wave behaviors structures. However, nothing established implies human-scale self-trapped light beings. Araxiv required unknown physics feature a new, strong, stable nonlinearity of the EM field in vacuum that creates robust localized field objects, not momentary lab effects. 2. A mechanism for photon rest mass or effective mass charge bald. A purely massless field tends to radiate propagate, giving photons an effective rest mass or an equivalent confining property, would radically change what light stuff can do. The difficulty is that experimental astrophysical bounds on photon mass are extremely tight, so any massive photon picture must evade existing constraints. Rod Lake's mirror website Unknown Physics routes that could evade constraints. Environmental phase-dependent photon mass. Photons are massless in ordinary vacuum, but acquire mass inside a new phase of spacetime, a vacuum condensate or domain. Emergent photons, what we call light, is an emergent excitation of deeper degrees of freedom. In special states, it can behave as if massive charged without contradicting low-energy tests. Required unknown physics feature, a controllable regime where EM excitations can be mass-like and confinable while still looking like ordinary light in everyday measurements. Number 3. Self-gravitating field objects made stable at small scales, human-scale geons. There is a classic mainstream theory adjacent concept, Wheeler's geon, a gravitational electromagnetic entity where the energy of a field contributes mass energy that, via gravity, helps confine it. APS links. The issue in standard GR plus isomiam, such objects are not expected to be stable at small, low-mass scales. They tend to require enormous energies, masses, and are prone to decay, leakage. Unknown physics required to make human scaons plausible. Modified gravity, extra dimensions, altered coupling at small scales, new boundary conditions that makes field confinement far easier than in GR. New long-range forces that effectively replace gravity as the confining glue for EM energy. Required unknown physics feature, confinement force, that binds field energy into compact, durable structures at modest total mass energy. Number 4. Exotic spacetime structure that acts as a light trap. If spacetime itself can form stable cavities, topological defects, solitonic spacetime structures, or engineered boundary conditions, then light could circulate without dispersing, more like a self-contained resonator that is intrinsic to the entity. This is the cleanest way to get macroscopic, persistent light structures without giving photons a standard rest mass, because the container is geometry topology. Unknown physics candidates, conceptual, stable, traversable micro-wormhole-like resonators, requires exotic stress energy not available in known macroscopic forms. New stable topological defects that bind gauge fields are not of field geometry. Required unknown physics feature, reliable stable space-time hardware that stores and recirculates EM patterns. 5. A new substrate for lifelike persistence and computation in field form. Even if you can localize a light object, you still need it to behave like a living cognitive agent. That implies large-scale memory, error correction against noise, reliable state transitions, neurons, or logic, and an energy budget consistent with thermodynamics. Unknown physics would need to provide field-based equivalents of chemical bonds for stable components, dissipative self-organization for metabolism, and fault-tolerant coding for identity continuity. This could be framed as a new class of self-maintaining dissipative solitons with built-in error correction, something beyond known biological chemistry and beyond known EM solitons. Required unknown physics feature, a demonstrated path from localized field configuration, robust self-maintaining information processor. A practical spec sheet for the required unknown physics. If you want a crisp checklist, the unknown physics must permit all of the following simultaneously. 1. Localized stable EM structure at human scales, minutes to decades. 2. Nonlinear binding, self-interaction or external binding, gravity, new force, geometry. 3. High information density with fault tolerance, identity continuity. 4. Thermodynamic viability, energy intake, output, entropy management. 5. Coupling to environment, sensing actuation, without immediate decoherence, destruction. 6. Compatibility with existing constraints, e.g. photon mass bounds, precision tests. Rod Lake's mirror website. What this means for literal possibility. To be direct, you would not need one unknown effect, you likely need a package. A. Strong vacuum nonlinearity for light or effective photon mass. B. A confining mechanism, new force or spacetime cavity. C. A field-based route to lifelike computation and self-maintenance. Any one of these alone is insufficient. If you want, I can translate these into 3 Zeppoverse grade hard SF unknown physics modules, each with governing principle, constraints, failure modes, and observable signatures. So you can pick the one that best matches the tone you want. Mystical transcendent, military black project, or cosmological metaphysical.
Ooh, that's a prompt. That answers the question for like, yes. I'm just going to do yes, please proceed. I think that was really interesting. It did its best to be like, listen, this is not physically possible, but if I were to conceptualize of ways in which it might become physically possible, here are some likely cartoon cutout places that we could maybe imagine potentially being possible along the fringes of basic physics. We're going to tell it to proceed on this. And we're going to put this conversation, while it's doing that, we're going to put it in the meta. This is meta writing for the Zeppoverse right here. And we're going to leave it alone. I think it's time for a break. How long have we been at this? We've been at this for 2 hours and 10 minutes. Yeah, I'm feeling a bit peckish. Let's round things out. Let's get to the end and see what... It's coming up with modules of stuff. Oh, let's go back to Bertolt Brecht. We wrote a sketch about Zeppo's doing stuff, and it apparently retconned that. Let's visit Yeshua and Christ consciousness. We've got it doing... It already came up with like a script for me to do a script about that. 60 seconds, brisk, quick cuts, etc., etc. Okay, we're going to leave that alone. We're going to put this in. We need to organize this more. This is going to be not stage plays, short form videos. Yes. Boop, bye. Off you go. We've also got what we did. A world without religion, a world without economics, a world without nation states. Those are ones we need to do this update thing. Here we go. Did this also get moved up here somewhere? Can you conceive of, envision, and describe in as deep imaginative detail as you possibly can an alternate parallel... Okay. That's a very long prompt for saying, hey, can you describe what this might look like? What is this next bit? Oh, yeah, I have it do a sketch. Let's leave that alone. What's endings and beginnings? In the end, new beginnings discovered. All right, that's fun. We have lots of concepts that we can still tinker with, but stuff that I want to integrate. Yearning for illusion. What is this? I think I just dropped a title. Did I just drop it? Ooh, we had quite a few interactions with this conversation. Sometimes they're just like really short. Sometimes they're super long. Oh, my dinner with the archetypes. This needs to get moved. That's what's happening here. This needs to be writing the Zeppoverse. Let's go. Fractal purple black hole. What is in here? Why do we have 2 of them? 3 of them. I don't know what happened. There's 3 of these, but clicking on it, that's some sort of redundancy. Unexpected utopian robot adventures. Bardo loop unknown. What? Why is it unknown? One of the intermediary, like, oh, develop a draft pitch idea for all this. Wow, this is a whole long ass thing. Are you familiar with the esoteric concept known as the Bardo loop? Yeah, it didn't know of a particular Bardo loop, but it put together Bardo loop. We did a bunch of other things, but let's drop the... Oh, nope. Let's get rid of that one. And analyze and assess. We did a flat earth theories. What's Dino's regret? There's so many things in so many conversations. Oh, we're going to leave that alone. Pineal gland mystical role. Okay, let's go here. We're going to do a couple. The last thing was a word prompt for a visualizer, but we're not going to do that now. Let's give it the turn this into core stuff for the Zeppoverse. GPT AI protocols. All right, I think we did what we wanted to do for this first part. We've got a bunch of conversations updated and generating new content-y stuff. Ooh, it's now quoting the quote beating heart of the Zeppoverse, which is kind of intense. Or weaponize it narratively. What? I can't wait to ask it that. Is this one already in? Oh, we didn't move this. Should we put this in recap report? What was this called? I don't even remember now. Let's put this in recap report, I think. Because it was just like, basically, before I'd come up with the term for a recap report, it's a recap report on what the pineal gland is and or does. Oh, persona, historical meaning. Didn't we just do one up here that was like that? Quantum life, fractal living, philosophy, time, story, game, villain, superhero, persona, historical meaning. Here we go. Have we asked it this question? Yep, we already did. This needs to be a meta thing. Off you go. So does hero. Whoops. Hero historical origins. All right. We're now just tidying up and organizing things. While I do that, friends, allow me to tease. Actually, we're just going to wrap things up and we'll come back to that in a minute. I'll finish tidying up off stream. So slowly but surely, in medium to sometimes shorter, sometimes longer bursts, like this one, in terms of episode length, and also sometimes smack dab in the middle of prolonged video game activity, I'm going to be dropping logoria blurbs of stuff that need to be captured and reintegrated and processed. Oh, this conversation. You know what we should do is No, I'm going to do the cleanup that I just proposed in my head off stream. No, I'm a liar. I'm going to start doing it on stream now, because you know what's going to happen is I'll get off stream, I'll do something, and then I'll completely forget about whatever the F I just asked it. Or whatever F I just said I was going to do. Did we move this to... hero? We're going to put this in meta. Right. Superhero and supervillain all need to go in there. We'll come back to revisit these, but I think by having done this... Oh, you know what we didn't do? We didn't drop it that thing. Let's ask it this thing about how can we apply this to our literary world building. Move this over to meta. We're going to revisit the other one that we just moved to see if we never asked it that or not. Regular hero. Come on, regular hero. This is... Yep. That's still the recap report. Now we're going to ask it this other question. There we go. Did we ask it in Personae? I don't even remember. Let's go to Personae. Real quick. No, we never did. That was the whole point of this. We haven't even listened to these yet. But what we're going to do is going to do a whole special episode where we listen to, respond, discuss, ask questions, and maybe further the conversation to each of these in order to sort of wrap our brains around them and update what it's doing and update what I'm doing. We're going to go. Fractal holographic recursion needs to get moved into meta. But also, did we already ask it about how to stick it into... Yes, we did. Okay, good. That one's got its question asked. This needs to be moved to meta. Off you go. So tune in for that. But before we go, we're going to drop... Before we wrap up this episode, we're going to drop that big old monologue prompt that I've been teasing. But first, I need to do this organizing. Living cosmology, and then philosophy. Let's do time. Let's do storytelling. No. We still have villain and supervillain. Let's do villain and supervillains next. Move them in. Okay, we got to ask it that question. Let's move it first. Tedium. But so is most of the work that we need to do as creatives, as artists, as writers or content creators, whatever you are. If you're painting, there's so much work that needs to get done that isn't the glamorous part, that isn't even the fun part. And this is especially true in any of the iterative arts where you got to like piece things together. Okay, it's thinking. Let's move on to the supervillains page. All right, we never asked it the other question. Let's ask it the follow-up question. Oh, I meant to move it first. I decided that was the protocol so that it starts thinking of it inside of that project. But whatever, we're telling it to connect all of these to everything. We still got game theory. We have indigenous cosmologies. We need to do that one too. Oh my God, there's so many more. If anybody's watching and has any questions, by all means, drop them. Oh, I meant to move it first and then... Okay. Plank time explained. Let's go. We talked about plank time. Oh, did I already ask it about like how to use it in the book? Yep. I already asked it that more longer, complicated version. Rock on. So this needs to go. Oops, go away. Go away, buddy. There we go. All right. Yada, 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 yada. This is getting tedious. Even for me, it's getting tedious. I should do this off stream. We shall. I'm going to continue to clean up and organize. We'll do it a little bit at a time. I'll do it some of the more tedious stuff like putting things that belong in the correct folders that they belong in off stream. So you don't have to sit here and stare at me while I do it. But thank you for tuning in, for those of you who did. Thank you to those of you who were catching the bits and pieces of it on other platforms and contributing that way by dropping comments and whatnot. Clip that. And by the way, your audience participation is not only humbly invited, it is desperately needed. So even if you don't get what's going on, just say, hey, I don't get what's going on. And we'll get into it. We'll have a discussion about it and we'll explore more. Tune in for more. I'm not sure what I'm going to do up next. I may be overwhelmed by my own curiosity and return to do more collaborative development of stuff. We still have this other prompt, this whole monologue, the quote-unquote climactic Mr. Zeppo monologue, which is still, I need to find a way to integrate the other thing that is a big reveal, which I just realized I kind of lost track of, which is that he is himself unaware of what he doesn't know about himself, the character, as we all are in real life. But creating that in fiction is a tricky thing because you got to be a universe of chess moves ahead of the character in order to create the illusion of that, right? Like that the character's having realizations about itself that it shoulda, coulda, woulda, always known. You gotta shoulda, coulda, woulda, always known it for it to really work. Otherwise, it feels like you're just slapping things, trying to make them fit. Anyways, I digress, friends. No music, no bells and whistles, no pomp and circumstance. This is the real, raw, ridiculously unscripted Zeppoverse world-building literary experimental development project. Clip that. Known by its full and complicated title right there, in which you are invited to watch and participate as I experimentally develop the book series from which me, myself, and I, and my chorus of multifaceted characters come from, that you've not read yet or even have heard of, because I lived those adventures in other universes and wrote those books in other universes, but now find myself stranded here, alone, and in a singularity, and unable to call upon my multiple instanced selves to help me distribute and delegate the multifaceted layers of labor that I have in this labor of love, collectively referenced as the Zeppoverse project. Clip that. Come on through. Don't be shy. Say hi. Drop your comments and your questions and your curiosities and your despise for the project, should you care to do. All of it will be integrated and become a working MacGuffin inside the book series in a really weird, fascinating way that will not require you to watch every single one of these, but will reward you if you dip your toe in. Come on through. All right, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to go feed myself some robo-munchy food because I, dear friends, am a robot. An action-adventure robot action figure from a Parallax Universe toy dimension sent here to entertain you. Ciao for now, friends. Remember to watch and tell your friends about it. Bye.